Hello and welcome to News Round, a recap of stories that made headlines during the week. Here are the headlines. Youths commemorate second anniversary of Endsars protests in Lagos amid drama as police disperse them with tear gas. Independent National Electoral Commission takes a firm stand on use of BVAs for 2023 general elections. Bayelsa state flood washes up bodies from graves. Governor Duri declares 7 days work-free for government workers. Plus, Liz Truss resigns as UK Prime Minister and leader of the Conservative Party, making her the shortest-serving Prime Minister in UK's history. That's News Round in View. Newsround begins with the second anniversary of the Endsars protests, which took the country by storm in October 2020. In what seems a reminder of scenes that played out 2 years ago, youth who had turned out to mark the event at the Electoral Plaza in Lagos were prevented from carrying out their procession in remembrance of the historic moment. Midway into the procession, the police released tear gas and water cannon to disperse some of the youth who gathered.
It's the second anniversary of the Endsars protest and agitation by youths against police brutality in Nigeria on October the 20th, 2020.
These are people's brothers and sisters.
Members of the Endsars movement arrived early at the Electoral Gate area in Lagos for a scheduled remembrance walk for those who allegedly lost their lives during the protest in 2020. This time, their demands are limited and straight to the point.
There are people still in prison till today. We want them released. So all we are asking for is justice. That's all we want. That's why we're here. And of course, to honor those that have died, letting them know that we will never forget. The government set up the panel, and the panel confirmed the killings. The government, the panel made recommendations. Until date, none of those recommendations have been met.
I came here to join others to just remember our great heroes. These are the real heroes of Nigeria, modern day Nigeria, not those who were drinking tea in London to get independence.
Keep moving! Sorry, sis, what do you want? Don't make it an unlawful gathering. Please keep on moving.
Their movement across the toll gate area, however, causes a stir and traffic congestion in the area.
So this coffee is what
An attempt by the crowd to move to the restricted area at the toll plaza changed the narrative. These anti-riot personnel arrived at the scene, releasing tear gas canisters. Hot water from the standby cannon chased them out of the area.
Adun 2020.
Mrs. Olabisi Abidin, an Akwa Ibom state-born Ndifreke Banga, says they lost their children during the 2020 Endsars protest. While Olabisi explains that she has been compensated by the state government, Mrs. Ibanga alleges that her quest has all been in vain.
It's not just about dying, that's getting to confirm that getting to see the photo of the son being shot death, and that since then he has not been able to see, or she has not been able to see his corpse, and the state of their well-being, that they've been struggling.
Back at the day's demonstration, a few persons were arrested and later released.
They were all unanimous in their demands that they were here to celebrate the second anniversary of the Endsars protest. They also called for the implementation of the Endsars panel report, and they asked that those who were still in detention should be released. From the Lekki toll gate here in Lagos, Shola Shele reporting for Channels Television News.
Some cheery news from the Nigerian National Petroleum Company Limited, which is giving the assurance that the country will have access to more crude and by extension more revenue in the coming weeks. According to the Group Chief Executive Officer of the NNPC Limited, Mr. Mele Kyari, the partnership with security agencies have significantly reduced the scale of oil theft in the Niger Delta.
Be comfortably seated. A round of applause for yourself. Thank you.
It's the second day of the Pengassan Energy and Labour Summit with the theme Energy Transition and its effects on the workforce in Nigeria's oil and gas sector. And senior staff workers in the energy sector are gathered for the event.
Mele Kyari.
The conversation quickly moves to one of the major issues plaguing the sector, crude oil theft.
The current situation of theft and abandoned actions, is very difficult to take the next step. And I'm happy to also share with you today that monumental progress has been achieved. And I can tell you, in the next not long while, in a couple of days or probably maximum a week, a number of our pipeline assets will come back on stream.
In his keynote address, the chief executive of the Nigerian Upstream Petroleum Regulatory Commission informs that the gas flare commercialization program has been relaunched in line with the national commitment to net zero carbon emissions.
Comrades, in its commitment to optimization of Nigerian gas resources, the federal government declared gas as transition fuel towards a low carbon future, which further reinforced the fact that Nigeria is more of a gas-rich nation than oil-rich nation.
For him, please, as he comes up.
For the national president of Pengassan, political leaders must make sacrifices and cut in the cost of governance before asking Nigerians to sacrifice.
Our leaders must live by example. Today, if you check the budget that was just passed, there's what they call service-wide vote. The service-wide vote today is going to 3 trillion naira. The service-wide vote is where you draw money from when, the accounting system of service-wide vote is questionable. Today, we still live in profligacy. Today, go to the various states and see what our governors are doing. They cannot tell us that we are passing through austerity. They cannot tell us that they need our help, but they are still living business as usual.
The Nigerian Upstream Petroleum Regulatory Commission also hinted that it will soon commence mini bids of 7 offshore blocks of gas to beef up the nation's revenue and deepen domestic gas utilization. Meanwhile, the president says his administration remains focused on the goal to increase the nation's electricity generation to 25,000 megawatts. President Muhammadu Buhari said this as he kicked off his final ministerial performance review at a retreat in the State House, where he declared that he has met the yearnings of Nigerians.
The third ministerial performance review retreat follows 2 others held in 2020 and 2021 to better understand achievements, policies, present and future challenges. The former president of Kenya, Mr. Uhuru Kenyatta, and the British High Commissioner to Nigeria, Mrs. Katrina Ling, the president of the Senate as well as Speaker of the House of Representatives, are among the top personalities invited. Reeling what he called high-impact projects and achievements, the president declares that he addressed the yearnings of Nigerians in key sectors.
We have implemented high-impact projects across the length and breadth of the country that meet the yearnings and aspirations of Nigerians. The implementation of a willing buyer, willing seller policy introduced by this administration has opened up opportunities for increased delivery of electricity to underserved homes and industries. We will continue to review and prosecute high-profile corruption cases and ensure speedy completion.
Illuminating the journey so far, the Vice President, Professor Yemi Osinbajo, puts forward ideas to accelerate economic development.
Our exchange rate management, and this continues to be an issue. The exchange rate of the naira to convertible currencies continues to face significant downward pressures because demand substantially outstrips supply, and that's just the reality. I think that a more market-driven approach will be best, some price discovery within the context of a managed float.
The president's African counterpart, the former president of Kenya, gave a constructive scrutiny of the shared challenges and their impacts.
There is need for us to rethink the way we do our politics. Rethink because sometimes our parties are not necessarily formed on the basis of policy, but of region. Where do I come from? It is my turn, it is so-and-so's turn, it is so-and-so's turn. We must recognize as a continent that our differences are so small in comparison to the challenges that we face. If an opposition were to take over today, they will still be faced with the same challenges. It is that ability to realize that no individual is greater than his or her country that will allow this continent to succeed.
The participants further underscore areas of expectations for the present administration.
Nigeria must remain on the path of democratic consolidation because democracy matters greatly to the world.
The outcome of this retreat will provide valuable data and context to help inform the decisions we make in Parliament regarding the current budget proposal.
Through the maze of suggestions and solutions, particularly as the nation heads into the 2023 general elections, the underlying word here is sustenance of a lasting vision of development that transcends beyond self-centeredness to inclusivity. From the presidential villa, Gloria Umezuke, Channels Television News.
Amid claims of an attempt to stop the Independent National Electoral Commission, INEC, from deploying the Bimodal Voter Accreditation System, or BVAs, in next year's election, the Commission says there is no going back on the use of the technology. Addressing participants in Abuja, INEC Chairman Professor Mahmoud Yakubu maintained that the Commission is determined to ensure a free, fair, credible and transparent election.
The use of technology in conducting transparent elections is a focus of this training of master trainers by the Independent National Electoral Commission. Amidst reports of plans to distort the use of technology for the 2023 general elections, the chairman of the electoral body assures Nigerians of massive deployment of technology to all parts of the country for the exercise.
The combination of BVAs and IRE portal have come to stay as a means of voter education and transmission of election results. Nothing will change that reality.
While the chairman of the board of Electoral Institute harps on the need for credible elections, the country director of International Foundation for Electoral Systems promises continued partnership with INEC.
The special training and retraining of all categories of electoral personnel for delivery of effective and efficient electoral services at all levels is a standing principles of the Commission.
INEC can count on our readiness to continually partner with the Commission in achieving its mission of serving as an independent and effective election management body committed to conducting free, fair, and credible elections for sustainable democracy in Nigeria.
Recent reports of violence at campaign venues and the refusal to grant access to venues by some state governments also have the attention of the electoral body.
Let me caution parties and their supporters to focus on issues and steer clear of attacks on each other. These are not only violations of the Electoral Act 2022, but also negate the voluntary commitment by all political parties and candidates to the letter and spirit of the peace accord signed about 3 weeks ago under the auspices of the National Peace Committee.
The 3-day training is expected to equip participants on how to be able to effectively and efficiently organize and lead training sessions for other officials towards the conduct of a successful 2023 general elections.
We'll come back on the news round. Flood washes up bodies from graves in Bayelsa State as Governor Dui Diri declares 7 days work free for government workers. Join us again. The president has been shedding light on what he believes has exacerbated corruption in the nation's public service. He listed nepotism, cronyism, political patronage, lack of transparency and accountability as some of the factors. President Muhammadu Buhari highlighted this during the presentation of Excellence Awards to persons and organizations who have distinguished themselves in government and the economy.
A week after presenting the 2022 National Honours Award, President Muhammadu Buhari steps into the State House Banquet Hall to present the maiden edition of the Public Service Excellence Award. The Office of the Secretary to the Government of the Federation is collaborating with a private organization to reward innovation, leadership, and exceptional achievements in public service.
I would like to encourage all the recipients of this Excellence Award not to relent in their efforts towards contributing to the growth and development of the public service and the society at large, because growth and development should continually be our aspiration.
Former President Goodluck Jonathan, who is honored with Peace Building Award, leads the list of 44 prominent recipients, including federal lawmakers, 16 state governors, 5 ministers, service chiefs, among others, across various categories.
Express our appreciation.
Beyond this list, former President Jonathan makes a case for recognition of teachers, medical personnel, and improved local government administration.
We have 36 states, and out of 36 states, from the list, 16 governors are recognized this morning. Then I ask myself, out of the 774 local government chairmen, not even one is here with us. Mr. Senate President and Mr. Speaker, that shows that the National Assembly has some work to do. Probably we need to review and look at the structure and functions of the local government.
For President Buhari, there are certain factors that have inhibited some Nigerians from receiving awards like this one.
Issues in corruption continue to affect the civil services in many countries around the world. Several reasons of these issues still exist because of the deeply rooted problems like nepotism, cronyism, political patronage, as well as lack of transparency and accountability. These vices distract them from delivering on their mandates and aspirations.
According to the organizers of the award, the recipients must be a living public official or private citizen excelling consistently in each sphere of influence and going beyond the mandate of the office to make the nation a better place.
Some good news for Nigerians who have been looking for an enabling environment for tech-based startups to flourish in Nigeria. Or the president has signed into law the Nigeria Startup Bill, which was initiated by the executive and passed by the National Assembly on July the 20th this year. Based on the provisions of the law, the federal government plans to set up a 10 billion naira fund for startups in the country.
Affirming his promise to boost ICT in the country, the president meets with the Minister of Communications and Digital Economy in a brief ceremony in his office, where he signs the Nigeria Startup Bill into law. Explaining the huge benefits that would accrue from the 2022 Startup Act, including tax holiday incentives, Mr. Pantami revealed a 10 billion naira fund among several other incentives to advance digital economy.
Mr. President has assented to the bill and also conveyed to the relevant institutions of government for gazetting. And the approach we adopted was to allow our young startups, our young innovators all over the country to identify the challenges they were being confronted with when it comes to intellectual property, financing, regulation, incentive, among many others. The minimum at the start, based on the provision of the law, is 10 billion naira.
It says as a pioneer approach to dealing with inherent hiccups in the innovative sphere, a Digital Innovation and Entrepreneurship Council, to be chaired by the President, would be set up.
There is going to be a presidential council which has been entitled as National Digital Innovation and Entrepreneurship Council. Digital innovation and digital entrepreneurship are the two prerequisites to digital economy. So there is going to be a council, and this council is going to be chaired by the President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. And the vice chair is going to be the Vice President of Nigeria.
It further explains that the Act will minimize the controversial issue of harassment of youths carrying laptops by law enforcement agencies.
In some states, because if you are going around with a computer, you will be detained. And some people will allege you are a Yahoo boy. This is a problem. With this council, when President directs, nobody will say no, they must comply. I hope you understand. So the challenge, issue of funding is not even the major issue they complain about. The major issue, let that enabling environment be provided. Let them be honored and be recognized instead of being harassed because of their ideas.
The ICT sector and digital services has so far contributed in the second quarter of 2022 a GDP of 18.44%. From the presidential villa, Gloria Umezuke, Channels Television News.
Now to the flood situation in Bayelsa State, where hundreds of people have been dislodged from their homes and not even the bodies in the cemetery have been spared as the flooding worsens. Residents of Cemetery Road, Electoral village, are now living in fear of a likely epidemic arising from the flooding of the cemetery. Meanwhile, Governor Doyediri has been carrying out an aerial assessment of the situation.
Bayelsa State in south-south Nigeria has a landmass of 10,773 kilometers, and more than half of this has been covered by floods.
What should I do?
Currently, the most common mode of transportation is the use of canoe, and those who will swim struggle through the water to get to their destinations. Even our crew had to wade through the water to access the cemetery at Electoral village, and our findings are mind-boggling.
This is the wrapper. I wish. Sorry.
As we were in the cemetery, I saw something flowing out, coming out when the water is coming. Immediately I saw it, that first one was casket with it, come outside. Then the second one that we bury without casket to float and come outside. I don't know what to do, so I need to drag them with my colleagues to the corner side of the cemetery to find where to put them, because the corner side of the cemetery, that time the water was not up to this level. So we look for a solution because we are living there with our family and our children.
The health implication of this is unimaginable, and residents believe those in authority should act immediately by fumigating the community and perhaps evacuating residents of the area to safety.
We are talking about discharge of effluents that are full of bacteria into this water. And of course, the underground water is also affected, and that means a very serious health threat to humans that are living within this place. And I think that this is the premise, one of the very logical reasons why inhabitants of this community are appealing very passionately and strongly to the governor that there is now need, in the face of what we have seen, there is need for the cemetery to be shut down and the cemetery to be relocated to a better place.
The governor of the state, Doyediri, embarks on an aerial tour of affected communities already submerged and assures the people that he has ordered more relief materials to be brought into the state through the waterways.
We have been totally separated from the rest of the world. So it's pathetic. It's something that you can't even wish your enemy to be. So I'm happy that the federal government responded by saying that they have not abandoned Bayelsa State and gave immediate order to all those emergency departments and agencies and all federal agencies to immediately come to the aid of Bayelsa State.
Whatever in my house, he go reach my neck. He go reach my neck. See me with my wife, they pack, they go.
This is perhaps the most devastating flood recorded in the state in many years. Properties submerged, valuables lost, schools unable to resume, marketplaces swept away, and health centers taken over by the floods. And there's no doubt that it will take the state and the people a long time to recover from this huge catastrophe.
The news round ends with the news of Liz Truss' resignation as the Prime Minister of Britain after just 44 days on the job. While the Prime Minister said her successor will be elected in the Tory leadership contest to be completed next week. Her resignation comes after a key minister quit and Tory MPs rebelled in a chaotic parliamentary vote.
I came into office at a time of great economic and international instability. Families and businesses were worried about how to pay their bills. Putin's illegal war in Ukraine threatens the security of our whole continent, and our country has been held back for too long by low economic growth. I was elected by the Conservative Party with a mandate to change this. We delivered on energy bills and on cutting national insurance. And we set out a vision for a low-tax, high-growth economy that would take advantage of the freedoms of Brexit. I recognise, though, given the situation, I cannot deliver the mandate on which I was elected by the Conservative Party. I have therefore spoken to His Majesty the King to notify him that I am resigning as leader of the Conservative Party.
And that's News Round, a recap of stories that made headlines during the week. Many thanks for watching. I'm Ayotunde Balogun.